Hello students, welcome back to our electricity and magnetism course. This is our second lecture in the series. So in the yesterday's introduction we have seen what are the basic requirements that you have to get prepared yourself during the lockdown period to be successful in online classes. So today we are actually going to start the subject, and in the yesterday's class I have shown you the syllabus that we are going to follow, and then the textbook that we are going to use. So you can use any of the textbooks as you like, there is no trouble. And the most important thing is, when compared to textbook, the most important thing is the class notes. So whatever I am going to explain you, if you are going to write down the notes, that's more than enough. So you can easily get A plus grade provided you have the class notes with you, because class notes, when you write down in your handwriting, it will enter into your mind. You can't have everything in the printed material, and you just by looking at a printed material you can't write down in a white paper. So you can check it out by yourself. Just open a book and read one page. Can you write down the same thing without seeing it? You have to verify that. Okay, that's not easy, and even if you do, it is only memorizing without understanding. So we are not going to do any memorizing part. I'm going to explain you all the steps involved in the calculation. And as I told in the yesterday's class, we need some mathematical tools before we can actually jump into the subject. So we are going to see some of the basic topics that are required. One of the main topic that is required is the coordinate systems. So you already know that we need an orthogonal coordinate system, especially you are familiar with the Cartesian system. But Cartesian system is not always usable, in particular when you have a cylindrical geometry or some circular plate, or for example a spherical ball. If you are going to do calculations on a spherical surface, the Cartesian coordinate systems are not comfortable. You can use it, but it is not comfortable. So only for that reason you are having more number of polar coordinate systems for doing the calculations. So there are a total of 11 coordinate systems available, but all of them are not required for this course. The most dominant one that are required are the three of them. The one is the Cartesian, three-dimensional Cartesian, three-dimensional cylindrical polar coordinate system, and three-dimensional spherical polar coordinate system. All of them are three-dimensional. Coming down to two-dimensional is always very easy. Okay, one of the dimensions you can reduce it. So the calculations, you should remember that we will be doing many of the calculations in the three-dimensional situation. So therefore you need to know the relation between the Cartesian and the cylindrical and the spherical polar coordinate system. So it's a very essential requirement. So this is the very first point that I am going to tell you. The second thing is that as far as any of these courses are concerned, you can understand the subject only by drawing a proper geometrical diagram. So diagram is extremely important. If you can draw the diagram properly, diagram means, I mean the geometrical diagram, the construction of vectors, and then the representation and identification of unit vectors, etc. If you can do that correctly, the rest of the thing follows in a very easy way. If you do not know how to draw it properly, then you can't memorize any equation and write. So this is very important, and we are now going to the board, and then we will see how to draw the diagrams and how to see the relation between the unit vectors in the three different coordinate system. This is fundamentally important, and if you are not familiar, and if you are not going to be familiar with this particular topic, it's going to be very difficult for you, not only in this course but in any other physics course. It will be very tough. So let us see this important topic of the orthogonal coordinate system in three dimensions. This first point. Additional information for you is, as far as the technical depth of the course is concerned, you should be quite happy with one of the best courses that are available. In fact, the syllabus and the textbook that we are going to use are typically the very standard syllabus that are used elsewhere in both in India and abroad. So typically in many of the BTech programs, second year electrical engineering course, they will use this particular book, namely the StudyQ Elements of Electromagnetics. So the content, the technical content of this course is going to be one of the very standard courses of the 4-year undergraduate program or the second year, that you are in the second year, it doesn't matter whether it is 4-year program or 5-year program. In any case, it happens to be in the second year. Okay, so it's the basic thing. The title may change from textbook to textbook. Some books will say applied electromagnetics, some books will say engineering electromagnetics, and some of the books will simply say electricity and magnetism. So these are the varieties of the textbooks available. And remember that our syllabus, namely the Pondicherry University syllabus, is going to cover the requirements for writing the GATE examination in future, or the CSIR UGC competitive examination, any kind of or the GRE examination, technical subject. Anything you can do, provided you follow the syllabus content in this particular course. So let us now go to the board and then start doing with the Cartesian coordinate system, and then we will see how to transform this to the case of the cylindrical polar coordinate system. So remember, once again, you start writing down the notes. If you don't write, without writing any notes, if you want to see this video as a movie, then there is not much use for you. By seeing the physics, you can't learn anything. You have to write down things. Okay, so let us now start. Okay, so as we have discussed, let us see the orthogonal coordinate systems. And remember that they are in the 3-dimensional case. So let me write down 3D. And the word orthogonal is already familiar to you. Orthogonal means perpendicular. 3-dimensional means there will be 3 axes. So because of 3 dimensions, you will be having 3 axes, and we generally give the names X, Y, and Z. When you are dealing with only 2 dimension, you say that the x-axis is the horizontal one and the y-axis will be the vertical one, because you have only 2 of them. Now that we are going to move to the 3-dimensional situation, now the third axis has also to be labeled. So it is a general convention that the x-axis will be in the horizontal plane. So x will come here, okay, not here. So you have to see that the x-axis position or the axis is shifted here, whereas the y will be the horizontal one and then the z will be the vertical one. It is not compulsory to choose like this, but to start with, this is how the standard configuration work. In a general situation, you can always rotate it and then keep the x, y, z elsewhere. But however, being the starting point to learn this coordinate system, it is a general practice to have the x and y in the horizontal plane. That means anything that you are going to show, for example, if I complete this particular plane, you will be able to see a horizontal plane there. So xy plane will be in horizontal plane, whereas the other two, namely the yz plane, so this particular plane, let me write down. So whatever plane that you see here is known as the xy plane, is horizontal plane, whereas the yz plane, this is the yz plane and this will be the xz plane. These are vertical planes. Now what is the meaning of the orthogonal is that out of the 3, you take any 2 of them, they will be perpendicular to each other. That is the meaning. Y will be perpendicular to z, z will be perpendicular to x, x will be perpendicular to y. That's the meaning of the orthogonal. But this is not true only in the Cartesian system. It is also true for polar. That means irrespective of whatever coordinate system that you are going to choose, the orthogonality is present. That is why these coordinate systems are known as orthogonal coordinate systems. In particular, we are going to see 3 types. The 3 are the most frequently used, most commonly used. So therefore, they are the 3-dimensional Cartesian, 3-dimensional cylindrical polar, and the 3-dimensional spherical polar. So out of the 3, the first one should be familiar to you because of the Cartesian. In particular, 2D is certainly you are familiar. And then once we understand the Cartesian terminology, that means what kind of symbols that we are going to see, we will slowly move on to the cylindrical polar case. Remember that all of them are 3-dimensional, needless to write. It is not compulsory that you have to write the 3D every time, but only for the first time when you are learning, you can write the 3-dimensional spherical. When you say sphere, automatically it is three-dimensional object. Cylinder is also a three-dimensional object. Circle means two-dimensional object. Similarly, in the case of Cartesian, you say that it is a cubical, or you say it's a rectangular box type of object. Therefore, everything is three-dimensional in nature. Now, what is the point that you have to note here is, while learning, there is certain convention. Convention means you have to consider certain type of symbols for notations, and you fix the symbol to give the meaning. If you keep on changing the symbols for the meaning, then everything will be chaotic and it will give you a lot of confusion. So that is the reason people stick to certain symbols, and those symbols will give you a particular meaning. So if you are going to fix like that, then it will be easy to understand as things get complicated. So convention, let us see. In the case of the Cartesian, irrespective of whether it is Cartesian, cylindrical, etc., the first thing, the requirement is that unit vectors. Unit vectors are very important in any of the coordinate systems that you are going to use. The standard notation, that is what is known as the convention, is to have A. A would be the standard notation for the unit vector, but then you have to put the suffix depending on what coordinate system you are using. In the case of the Cartesian, let me write down here, in the case of the Cartesian, any point on the Cartesian system would be represented by x, y. Whereas in the case of the three-dimensional situation, any point in the three-dimensional space will be written by x, y, z. So here I will just show you that let me show you a point here. I will erase this yz plane. This yz was a plane, so I will erase that, and then let us say that you are going to consider a point in the space, three-dimensional space. We write x, y, z. So automatically 3 are coming. So those x, y, z will be attached as a suffix here. So I will write that ax. Then I will write down ay. You write down az. So a will be common every place. Therefore a is called unit vector. Now unit vector will have a symbol of putting a cap on top of it rather than putting a vector symbol. So that is what we mean to say. So generally we write like this. This is the vector. So this is a vector which is not necessarily unit. Vector means there is no guarantee that the length of the vector will be 1. Its length can be anything. Therefore, we don't use the word unit. But if you write like this, we guarantee that the length of the vector is 1. If the length of the vector is 1, it is unit. 1 means in what dimension, like whether it is 1 meter or 1 millimeter, 1 centimeter, that doesn't matter. It will be any kind of unit that you choose, whether it is centimeter, millimeter, meter or kilometer, that doesn't matter. You choose any of the units for the x-axis. Suppose if you are going to choose this x-axis in kilometer, let us say in kilometer, then correspondingly you will have to choose just the smallest one here to represent a unit vector. So you have to choose one in a particular dimension. That is what we mean to say. You can always scale by 1000, you can always divide by 1000. That kind of thing can be done here, but you have to maintain one for a particular length. It is, what do you mean by that is, if you are going to draw an axis like this and say that this is 0, 1, 2, etc. If you are going to do like this, this distance will represent automatically 1, and that is what is the meaning of this unit vector. So whatever millimeter, centimeter, that doesn't enter into picture in this discussion. The number 1 is very important on the scale that you are going to use, and a vector will be in that particular direction having the length equal to 1. So coming to the point, our discussion is on the symbol for the unit vector. So this portion will erase. So this is the unit vector ax. I will put a comma here, ax, comma, ay, comma, az. So I will put a bracket here. This is the set of 3 unit vectors for the case of Cartesian coordinate system. So Cartesian coordinate is clear because x, y, z is there. Now what will you do for the case of cylindrical polar? So in the case of cylindrical polar, we will be writing like this. Any point x, y, z will be represented by the distance, radial distance. So we will use a symbol rho. R can be used, but for the spherical polar system R is used. So that is why rho is used for the case of cylindrical polar system. So this is known as the radial distance, rho comma. Then you have a phi, an angle, because the cylinder is curved, so therefore there is an angle involved, and there is a height of the cylinder. So height of the cylinder is z. So x comma y comma z can be replaced by these three numbers. How it is replaced we will see in a diagram in a moment. But before that, let me write down how the unit vector will look like. It will look like this. A is the unit vector. The first element will be, now instead of x, you have the rho. So we put a rho here as a suffix and then put the cap here, then comma. Then A is the unit vector. Then y, instead of y, you have the phi. So you put a phi here. Then put a unit vector, that is a cap, comma. The last unit vector will be A suffix z and then put a comma. So this will be the set of three unit vectors. So let me say that these are the unit vectors in three-dimensional cylindrical system. System means coordinate system. That's the meaning. So here you can easily understand that the first three numbers will represent the unit vectors in the three-dimensional Cartesian system. Usually Cartesian system unit vectors you are already familiar. Usually in mathematics we used to write I vector, j vector for along the y-axis and k vector along the z-axis. So this is the standard notation in mathematics that has been used. You have been using this I comma j comma k unit vectors in the Cartesian system. So the question now is, why this ijk is removed and we are going to use a new symbol a. Everything is a now. The advantage is, if for the Cartesian system if it is ijk, what symbol will you use for cylindrical system? You have to search for new alphabet. Three alphabets are over ijk. After that, what will you do? Do you want to use L, M, N, etc.? So that confusion comes. And if you keep on changing the symbols like anything, and then you need three more symbols for spherical system, etc. So it appears that if you are going to change the symbol for every coordinate system, then it is going to be somewhat tedious. So the better idea is that you simply remove this I comma j comma k, ijk, you remove it and discover a new symbol, and that new symbol is small letter a. As you can see that small letter a is there. Everywhere you use this small letter a so that things are comfortable. And how do you distinguish between the Cartesian and the polar coordinate system is by the suffix. So the purpose of the suffix here, x comma y comma z suffix is here. So these suffixes will tell you in which coordinate system you are working. So now you are able to understand what is the reason for using the small letter a for the unit vector rather than using I comma j comma k. That's clear. So we are now happy that we can stick to a single symbol, only one symbol a for the unit vector. Okay. Now I will come back to this particular point. I said that how do you know that x comma y comma z is represented by rho comma phi comma z for the case of a cylindrical polar coordinate system? For that, if you can draw a diagram, that will be very clear. So let us try to draw a diagram. The diagram should look like a cylinder, for example. So let me first draw a circle in the three-dimensional case. So most probably the circle should look like an ellipse like this, something like that, and then find the center of the ellipse. It is not ellipse actually, it is a circle. But in 3D, when you are having 3D means isometric projection. Okay, when you have a three-dimensional object and whatever our eye is going to see that object is known as an isometric projection. It looks as if it is an ellipse. It's not an ellipse. So that is the base of the cylinder. So this particular thing, you say that this is the x-axis, and this one you can say this is y-axis. So naturally the z-axis will be the vertical one. So you have to draw straight here. So you have to use your drawing talents to draw this particular thing as neatly as possible. The drawings is very important. If you are going to make the drawing neatly, the rest of the things are going to be very simple. So now you have a circle only at the base. if you are going to pull this circle, let us assume that it is something like an elastic situation. If you pull this particular circle the vertically up direction, in the upward direction, you must be able to get a cylinder, right? So that is how it looks like. You are going to elongate in the vertical direction the circle. So circle is elongated in the z direction. So this is the z direction. And this particular point will be the origin. So let me say that this will be the center point is known as the origin. It will represent say 0, 0, 0 for the three numbers. What are the three numbers? The three numbers are rho, phi and z, not x, y, z. Okay, it can be now. Right now we are going to have two of them are coincident. The x, y, z is Cartesian. So in that way this x, y, z is also coming here, which is also equal to rho, phi, z for the 0 case. For the 0 case it will be same, but if it for non-zero case they are not equal. You should understand what do you mean by that. Not equal means x value and rho value are not equal. Y value won't be equal to the phi. Z value is equal to z. So this is the thing you have to note. The z value will be equal to the z. So this is for the Cartesian. This is the Cartesian z value. This one is the cylindrical polar value z. These two things are equal, whereas Cartesian x will not be equal to cylindrical rho. It is going to have a different numerical value. I am talking about a number. The two numbers won't be same. It will going to be a different value. And we can easily see why these things are happening like that. Now assume that there is a point here. There is one point on the surface of the cylinder. So let me say that this is the point. I will show an arrow here. And there is an arrow, and this is a point capital P. Let us represent it by x, y, z. This point in the Cartesian system is equivalent to another set of numbers rho, phi, z. These are equivalent. Whether you are going to represent x, y, z or you are going to represent rho, phi, z, that is your wish. But ultimately that particular point will be there only. Point will not change. So now the question is, where is rho in the diagram? Where is phi in the diagram? Where is z in the diagram? That is a question. And you can easily find out what are they. Rho is the radial distance. If you know the meaning, you can easily find out. So rho is the radial distance. So in the word radial, there is a radial is there. So that means some radius is coming into picture. Radius will come whenever you have a circle. So that means you have a circular top, and on the circle you can see here on the top surface, or whether it is a bottom surface, what kind of surface it is? It's a circular, and therefore this being a circular one, the center you can find here. This is the center of the circle, and then you have to travel in the direction of radius. In the direction of radius is called radial. So you can travel any direction. So for example, if you travel like this, this is also along radius, this is also radius. So these are the different radius. It doesn't matter in which way you travel, all of these things are, you are traveling along the radius. So you can travel now in this direction. So can you see this? This is the direction. So therefore if you are going to travel like this, this is known as the radial distance. Now I can show you the rho here. So what is the rho here? It is the distance from the center of the circle to the point P here. So now it is clear. So the point rho, this one is now shown in the diagram. Rho is clear. The next question comes, where is phi? In order to show where is phi, what you have to do is, you simply project this point. Projecting means taking a shadow. So first let me tell you what is projection. You take a torchlight and put the torchlight in such a way that light comes from top to bottom in this direction. Go to the top. This is top. Here you shine the light, and then the light will come in the downward direction. When you do that, this particular point will get a shadow at the bottom. That is known as the projection. So where it will be projected? It will be projected here. So this point is clear. So this particular point, this is the projection. projection of the point capital P. So once you project this, now what you have to do is, you have to draw once again the same line. You have drawn from origin to this point. In the same way, here also you have to draw. You draw this. That means you're taking a copy of that line and putting it down here. This line, this particular line is now taken here, and then a copy of that is drawing here. That means you will be getting a similar shadow. Even that line also you will get a shadow here. That is the meaning of projection. Once you finish doing this, you have to measure the angle from the x-axis. So this is the x-axis. So from the x-axis, you have to measure the angle from here to this line. So I'll put a arrow here. You see arrow is there. This arrow represent the direction in which the angle is measured. So this particular thing is known as phi. So now I'll put the symbol phi. So this is the angle. Angle measured from the x-axis. That measured from the x-axis is very important. You cannot measure the angle from somewhere. So the reference point is very important. If you change the reference point, you don't know what is the angle. So reference point is fixed, x-axis is fixed. From there you start measuring until this line comes, this line. That is why the arrow is there. This is the starting point, this is the starting point. You keep moving like this. This is the ending point. Find out what is the angle. And you are going to do this measurement in the horizontal plane. You know that this circular thing is in the horizontal plane. Once again, this circle is horizontal plane. Now this particular is the vertical one. There is no plane here because it is a curved surface. So the vertical one you have is a curved one. So now what is clear now? Now in the diagram, phi is now explained. You know where is phi. Now the next question is, where is the z? Z represent a very simple thing, namely the height of the cylinder. So height of the cylinder is quite visible. It's very clear that it is the distance from here to here. It's already there, this particular point. This line is already there. So it is the same line that you can show. Let me show it in this color, for example. From here, I am showing in yellow color. From here to this, whatever be the distance that you have from here to here, from here to here is the distance z. And therefore the distance z is also explained in the diagram. So therefore the basic explanation to what is the meaning of cylindrical coordinate system is shown in the diagram and explained.